The twin-engine Bristol Beaufighter was renowned for its paradoxical agility. On June 12, 1942, Ken Gatward's Beaufighter launched a French tricolor flag as a bold statement of Allied courage and optimism, heading directly toward the center of Nazi-occupied Paris. The plane then targeted the Gestapo headquarters at Place de la Concorde and opened fire, wreaking carnage. The Bristol Beaufighter was a formidable opponent, yet it never gave up, leaving its allies appreciative and its foes perplexed. The aircraft's reputation perplexed allies as well as opponents. Single-engine fighters were lightweight, but had limited range and firepower when deployed for day intercept operations in several countries prior to World War II. But Germany could play several roles since they possessed long-range heavy fighters like the Messerschmitt Bf 110. Although the Royal Air Force's stalwarts, the Hurricane and Spitfire, were still doing a good job in their respective duties, the Air Force realized it needed a new twin-engine fighter as hostilities in Europe became closer. They were not, however, long enough or have enough payload to confront the increasing dangers posed by German bombers and naval forces. Bristol's design team, under the command of Leslie Fries, began work on a concept based on their Beaufort torpedo bomber and general reconnaissance aircraft in 1938. They assessed the Beaufort's structural integrity and concluded that it might be improved for increased speed and agility, resulting in the development of the ultimate Allied long-range aircraft. In approximately 6 months, Bristol engineers converted the Beaufort airframe to become the Bristol Beaufighter prototype. They changed the design, inserted a single-seat cockpit, shortened the fuselage, and assigned a dorsal place for an observer and navigator, all under the direction of Fries and Fatten. Reflecting the UK's significant rearmament effort, the Royal Air Force's Air Ministry accepted an initial order for 300 Beaufighters, 2 weeks before the aircraft's maiden test flight. Captain Ewan's Beaufighter prototype took to the air on July 17, 1939, shortly before Germany invaded Poland and started World War II. Once the first batch of production models was received, the Royal Air Force placed an order for 918 units, a major increase in quantity. The Minister of Aircraft Production, Lord Beaverbrook, stressed the Beaufighter's vital role in the war effort and urged a swift incorporation of the aircraft into the operational lineup of the Royal Air Force. Due to its size, the Bristol Beaufighter, a big, sluggish fighter with strong Hercules engines, initially caused criticism. But when it was put into use in July 1940, a year after the war started, it proved to be indispensable. During the Battle of Britain, as Luftwaffe tactics changed to nighttime bombing, the RAF switched to the Beaufighter for its nighttime missions. The Beaufighter, equipped with British airborne interception radar, coupled an observer's sight to a Mark IV radar, revolutionizing night warfare. With this configuration, the aircraft could identify and guide other aircraft over the intercom. The Beaufighter's speed and firepower made it a deadly opponent in night combat, even surpassing German Bf 110 night bombers with their powerful Hispano guns, especially in spite of the Bristol Blenheim IF radar. Fast aircraft like the Beaufighter were employed to seriously destroy German bombers. The first victory was to the RAF's 219 Squadron, which downed a Dornier D-017Z in October 1940. In November 1940, the first successful use of radar was against the Junkers Ju-88. Over a dozen Nazi aircraft were destroyed by Beaufighters in just 6 months. In April 1941, Air Marshal W. Sholto Douglas emphasized the significance of these aircraft. Beaufighters accounted for barely 21% of night missions, yet they destroyed nearly 65% of enemy aircraft. Bristol decided to bolster their numbers as a result. During World War II, The Beaufighter was a multi-purpose aircraft that could be configured to carry out a variety of missions and weaponry. It became one of the first torpedo planes to be stationed on land and played a major role in the coastal command of the RAF. The Beaufighter proved to be a useful asset to the Allies, as it proved to be an effective weapon against both surface ships and U-boats during the height of German U-boat activity. Because of its adaptability, it was useful for long-range operations, hitting enemy bases and ships that were able to reach Norway. Despite its small stature, the Beaufighter's 4 guns and forward-positioned engines made it a tough and adaptable aircraft. When they were over, the pilot benefited from these guns acting as protective skids. An experienced pilot related a story of a Beaufighter that hit many obstacles and only shattered the pilot's knee while leaving the observer unharmed. During the Second World War, on June 12, 1942, a French tricolor flag was dropped atop the Arc de Triomphe in Paris by a Beaufighter, piloted by Sergeant G. Fern and Flying Lieutenant A.K. Ken Gatward. As the war raged across Europe and beyond, the Beaufighter went into combat overseas. A versatile aircraft that was debuted in 1941, the Bristol Beaufighter was instrumental in both the North African and Mediterranean theaters of operations. It was of great assistance to the British 8th Army, especially during the late 1942 Second Battle of El Alamein. In the end, the aircraft helped the Allies win by carrying out a variety of missions, including as bombing German sites, strafing the ground, and conducting reconnaissance. Additionally, the Beaufighter conducted anti-submarine patrols over Royal Navy vessels in the Mediterranean Sea and protected convoys bound for Tobruk and Malta. In Asia and the Pacific, the Bristol Beaufighter made its debut in the middle of 1942. It was modified to run on the inline Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. Certain variants were even equipped with torpedo, rockets, and bomb capabilities. The aircraft's recoil forced it to stop in midair, yet it was capable of slicing tiny ships and sinking 800-ton vessels. Its reputation was cemented by its success in the Dutch East Indies and Burma. Known as the Whispering Death in the Far East, the Beaufighter proved its mettle in broad waters and tropical woods during extreme weather. The Allies persisted in their attacks, weakening the already overextended Japanese supply lines. So the Japanese turned to a variety of methods, such as tying steel wires between trees to trap an Allied plane. However, these tactics proved fruitless. In these difficult conditions, the aircraft and its operators proved to be efficient. During the Battle of the Bismarck Sea in March 1943, the Japanese faced a strong foe in the Bristol Beaufighter, which was renowned for its powerful guns, rockets, and torpedoes. Under the protection of 100 fighters, a Japanese convoy consisting of 8 destroyers and transports was engaged in combat with the intention of transporting reinforcements to New Guinea. A-20 Havocs, B-17 Flying Fortresses, B-25 Mitchells, and Australian Bristol Beaufighters were among the several aircraft that the Allies, which included the Royal Australian Air Force and the United States 5th Air Force, used to strike the convoy. The mission assigned to the Beaufighters was to attack and destroy enemy ships. But the Japanese mistook them for Bristol Beaufort torpedo aircraft, which caused their ships to relocate incorrectly. By using their 20mm guns in a surprise attack, the Beaufighters were able to light a significant portion of the Japanese convoy on fire. This prompted further bombing missions and strafing attacks. One of the most famous aircraft in Australian service was the Beaufighter, which gained notoriety in 1939 thanks to film taken by war journalist Damien Purr during the Battle of Midway. The Japanese suffered a terrible loss in this engagement. Just 1,200 of their 6,900 troops made it to their objective, and most of their convoy was destroyed, costing them 2,890 soldiers and sailors. The fight was hailed by General Douglas MacArthur as one of the most decisive and victorious conflicts in history. 13 Bristol Beaufighters, 9 of which were outfitted with torpedoes, left Langham, England on June 15, 1944, flying in to meet 9 P-51 Mustangs from North America that needed fighter protection. Inflicting a last great damage and destroying 2 commercial ships and 1 escort, the Beaufighter, also known as Torbeau, destroyed 10 more. The Beaufighter continued to battle until the very last seconds of the conflict, while every other aircraft made their way back. The triumph of the Allies was evidence of their fortitude and tenacity in the face of difficulty. A result of rapid improvisation, the Bristol Beaufighter aircraft participated in the last military operation of the European theater in May 1945, attacking German naval assets in the Strait of Skagerrak that separated Denmark and Norway. There were 5,562 of these adaptable aircraft manufactured by September 21st, and they were deployed in all of the war's main theaters. The Bristol Beaufighter's legacy persisted beyond the war, continuing to serve a number of countries until 1960.